Have you ever wondered if the most trusted man on Wall Street was actually its greatest ghost? For decades, Bernie Madoff was the safest bet in finance. He was not a gambler. He was not a disruptor. He was the establishment itself, a former chairman of NASDAQ. Investors did not just trust him, they worshipped him. His secret was a strategy called split-strike conversion, which promised steady, inhumanly consistent returns. When the market climbed, Madoff paid 10%. When the market crashed, Madoff still paid 10%. This was the anomaly that defined him. While others bled during downturns, his accounts remained untouched, rising with a mathematical precision that defied the chaos of the global economy. He was the anchor in a storm that never seemed to hit his ships. To the world, he was a genius who had finally mastered the art of losing nothing. But in the quiet, glass-walled offices of the Lipstick Building, that perfection was not a result of trade, but a carefully constructed performance. He was the king of a market that existed only on paper, waiting for the one day the math would finally demand to be paid. Behind the polished glass of his 17th floor office in the Lipstick Building, the reality was not high-frequency trading or complex algorithms. It was a factory of fiction. There was no market activity, no data streams connected to the global exchange. Instead, the floor hummed with the sound of ancient IBM mainframes and the rhythmic, hollow clacking of dusty printers. Day after day, these machines churned out millions of pages of fake account statements, fabricated confirmations, and falsified trade logs. It was a perfectly choreographed hallucination. Madoff was not a manager of assets. He was a curator of paper. He sat at his desk, manually calibrating the lie, ensuring every document looked authentic enough to survive a casual glance. When investors handed over their life savings, the money never touched a stock. It vanished into a single JP Morgan account, used only to pay off earlier clients. He relied on these archaic tools to maintain the illusion of growth, building a house of cards that stood solely because no one dared to look at the machinery behind the curtain. It was cold, mechanical, and entirely hollow. But math is a stubborn thing. In 1999, a quantitative analyst named Harry Markopolos took one look at the returns and realized it was a fraud within 4 hours. The numbers simply did not move the way they should. He calculated the risk, found the void, and wrote a report titled, "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Scam." He sent it to the SEC, did it 4 times over 9 years. Each time, the response was silence or dismissal. Madoff was royalty. He sat on boards, he lobbied, and he possessed a legendary charm that seemed to paralyze those tasked with oversight. When the SEC finally asked questions, Madoff simply waved a hand and dismissed his trading records as a trade secret. The regulators chose to believe the billionaire over the math. They were blinded by the prestige, the steady returns, and the sheer impossibility of anyone questioning a man so deeply embedded in the financial establishment. With each refusal to look closer, the lie was granted another year of life. The fraud was no longer just Madoff's creation. It was now protected by the system's own desperate need to believe that such perfection was possible. The warning was clear, yet it remained ignored. Then came the autumn of 2008. The global economy did not just slow down. It hit a brick wall. Credit markets seized, banks shuttered, and the illusion of infinite growth shattered overnight. For investors, the fear was immediate and visceral. They looked at their portfolios and realized they needed cash. Not paper gains, not statements, not promises. They needed liquidity. Across the globe, the phone lines began to ring. It started as a trickle of inquiries, then grew into a roar of demands. Investors wanted their money back, and they wanted it all at once. The steady, inhumanly consistent returns that had once been the envy of Wall Street now became the primary source of terror. As the markets froze, the tide of cash that had fueled the scheme for decades reversed its course. The pressure inside the Lipstick Building spiked. The invisible world was no longer a quiet factory of fiction. It was a cage. Every withdrawal request was a hammer blow against the glass. The system was built on the constant arrival of new money. But the new money had stopped coming. The silence of the regulators had been replaced by the deafening sound of a panic that could not be charmed away. The road had finally run out. Inside the 17th floor office, the air felt thin. Madoff stared at the terminal. The requests were scrolling past, a relentless digital cascade of debt. $7 billion. That was the figure the world demanded by morning. He looked at the balance in the JP Morgan account. $200 million. The gap was a chasm. For decades, he had lived by the fiction that the market was just a tool to be bent, but now the laws of arithmetic demanded a reckoning. There was no more new money to capture. There were no more recruits to fool. He scrolled through the accounts, searching for a phantom trade, a hidden asset, a way to move the numbers one more time. Nothing. The screen offered only the cold, unyielding reality of his own creation. He stood up and paced the length of the glass-walled room. Every step echoed against the silence. The ledger was not just a list of names, it was a tally of his inevitable end. He tapped the glass, looking out over the city. The lights of New York glowed, indifferent to the implosion happening in his private, invisible world. The trap had finally snapped shut. He was no longer the architect of a masterpiece. He was a man waiting for the floor to give way. The office lights felt too bright now. Madoff stopped pacing. He picked up the phone. His voice was steady, even as he reached for the end of everything. He called his sons into the room. They arrived expecting a strategy meeting, a path forward, a way to navigate the market freeze. They did not expect the words that followed. Madoff did not offer a plan, he offered the truth. He told them the secret he had guarded for decades. The fund was a lie. The trades were never made. The billions they believed were invested across the globe existed only on the dusty paper of his own printers. As the words left his lips, the room shifted. The professional respect, the family legacy, the decades of assumed success, all of it evaporated in seconds. His son stood in the center of the office, staring at a man who had become a stranger. The house of cards did not fall. It vanished. The revelation was absolute. There was no recovery, no excuse, and no way to put the pieces back together. The saint of gains was gone, replaced by a man who had finally run out of lies to tell. The silence that followed the confession was heavier than any market crash. The confession triggered an avalanche that no amount of charm could stop. Charities shuttered their doors as their endowments dissolved. Retirees watched their accounts hit zero. The total loss was measured in lives derailed and futures erased. Madoff traded his glass office for a concrete cell, sentenced to 150 years. He remained there until his death in 2021, a prisoner of his own history. He did not flee the authorities. He spent 40 years running from the laws of math, using the greed of others to construct his own confinement. When the ledger finally demanded the truth, there was nowhere left to hide. The tragedy was not found in the complex technology of the scheme, but in the fragile, simple nature of human trust. He built a cage from the expectations of those who wanted to believe in the impossible. Now, look back at the wreckage. Was he a singular monster, or did a system obsessed with constant, impossible returns demand that he exist? The cage is empty now, but the lesson remains. What do you think?